Hi everyone, today's build is going to be for the Diecast Mafia's food truck or ice cream truck challenge. For this I'm going to be using a Matchbox ice cream van, although you can't really tell because it's got coffee livery on it. Here's the casting disassembled. So the first plan was to remove the decals. To do this I'm using a method I found from Silva, in which you take a whiteboard eraser or a dry eraser marker, because there's some kind of solvent in the ink or something, and it dissolves the decal. So you just try to colour it on. You do have to rub this off and repeat the process a couple of times before it'll actually remove the decal. And Jim said in his video that it doesn't always work. In my case, this body's plastic and it was a bit of a chew to get it off, but eventually it did come off. I will link his video in the description, because it's a good video and he goes into more detail with it. So next I remove this nut from the base plate, which I think is just there to keep the interior piece from rattling around. So obviously after this I cut the interior in half because I don't need the back section with all the cabinets and such, because again I've got plans for this later on. So following this I just add some accessories to the body, starting with this microphone, which is the sonic weapon from the Auto Kills heavy weapons sprue, because obviously you need to play your ice cream music and such. Next I did this grenade launcher or flare launcher to the rear, which is from the North Star Military Figures Implements of Carnage sprue, which is a good sprue for Gaslands. From the same sprue I use these dual MG32 machine guns and mount these to the front. Moving back to the chassis, I want to jack this thing up and put it on some big off-road tyres. So I'm making some new axles out of some styrene tubing and just gluing them here. For the wheels I'm using some Chemsol designs. I'm using 14mm fatties, tyre design 9, rim design 11 for the front. And for the back I'm using same size, tyre design 3, rim design 7. And then glue a piece of styrene rod into the centre hub of these wheels, and I'm going to glue the other one on later on when I permanently attach the wheels. So next, since the castings glass was orange, I just decided to remove it completely and replace it with some mesh. So first I'm just going to wrap the original window in mesh just to kind of get the shape, and then just mark it out and then cut it. And then simply put it in place and then use some super glue to hold it in place. So going back to the axles, I knew if I just left them the way they were, they would just get knocked and fall off. So I'm using some baking soda and super glue to kind of strengthen the bond to the base plate for these axles. It's quite the messy process, so as you can see I'm using a little tray here to catch all the loose baking soda that's fallen out. You don't want this to fall over your desk, it's just a nightmare to clean up. Just making the cleanup a little easier. Moving on to the driver, I decided to use this 172 scale World War II SES Desert Rat, which was just bought from eBay with a pack of others. Unfortunately he won't quite fit in the seat at the moment, so I'm going to have to hack the original steering wheel off the interior piece. I'm just using my hobby knife. Test fit him again, unfortunately, like usual, I can't put him in there without taking his legs off. So it's kind of a common thing, usually end up taking the legs off these guys just to fit them in. But there his legs go. And now it'll fit in nicely. Since I've taken the original steering wheel off and it's not really salvageable to re-put in, I'm just scratch pulling the steering wheel with some styrene tubing and then some flat styrene rod at the centre hub of the steering wheel. I'm just going to glue that in place. So moving on, I want to add some battle damage. Now if you don't know what ice cream vans are made out of, usually the entire front section up until the front doors is whatever the original stock base van is, and then the rest is a fiberglass shell. If you've seen any of these ones, if you've seen any ice cream vans that are run down, these things begin to crack and fall apart from the rear. They don't rust, but they do just fall to pieces. Obviously with this being in combat and stuff, it would have probably blown chunks off. So to do this, I'm just taking a pin drill and drilling a big hole in the sides, and then I'm going to take my hobby knife and then just rough up those holes. So at this point I stupidly realised it would just be much easier if I just took my rotary tool and just use the drill piece and just do the holes this way, and it was a lot easier and a lot smoother. As you can see, here's the final results. All the holes tore into this thing. To add to the effect, I'm going to add some mesh underneath to kind of show like the plastic, that most of it's fallen off and it's just like the framework underneath is just left. At this point I feel it's okay to glue the wheels on, so I just glue the wheels on to the other end of the axles. This does come back to bite me later on in the build, which you'll find out. I then add this plough again from the North Star military figures and from some kind of sprue. For this, I want to add some suspension, so I just take some screws, because these things are great once you paint them up as suspension. A little fiddly to get in place, but once they're glued in place, they look right. Again, just need a lick of paint and they'll be great. Next, I've got a piece of styrene tubing to extend the exhaust and just cut a little notch in there so it can fit over the original exhaust. Finally, it's time to add this guy to the back, and unfortunately he won't be handing out some nice cold treats to anyone who comes up to the van. This figure's from the Dark Alliance 172 scale Stalker set 1. So to make this guy be able to fit in the back and swivel from both windows, I'm just going to drill a hole in his little base with my pin drill, and then I'm going to glue a little peg into the base plate of the ice cream van so he can swivel back and forth. So next I want to cover up the mess I made, kind of strengthening the axles, and I'm just going to make some skid plates, as you can see here. For this I just cut and measured some styrene sheet just to make some kind of square rectangles to go over the top. I do weather them up with a bit of a file later on, and then bending them and then wrapping them over the axles. This is obviously, this would protect the axle, but in my case it's just to cover up the mess. So moving on to the painting, like usual, all the colours I'm using are Revell Aqua colours. For this, I'm going to use light green for the body. I think it has that mint green ice cream van look. I also paint the gunner this colour because obviously he's going to have a matching uniform. Back to the chassis, I start with a base coat of Revell Rust. The wheels I paint matte black. Go back to the body, the mesh and some of the exposed metal parts I paint with a base coat of Revell Rust, and then for the interior I use Revell Grey. I paint the suspension with Revell Luftwaffe Yellow just to kind of make them pop out from under the wheel wells. Back to the gunner, I paint his minigun Revell Metallic Steel. I also paint his ammo belt Silva, although I probably should have used gold or bronze. Then I paint his head and arms Revell Flesh. Go back to the driver, again I paint him the same colour as the body because he's going to have a uniform that matches the ice cream van. And then paint the front mounted machine gun and the rear grenade launcher flare launchers Revell Metallic Steel, as well as paint the driver's hands and face with Revell Flesh. Following this, I dry brush Revell Metallic Silver onto all the exposed metal parts I'd previously painted with the rust colour, kind of give them the look that these parts are rusting, such as the microphone on the roof, the skid pans, the bumpers and the plough. Next I use some Revell Brawn and I go over the exhaust with this. I also go over some of those other parts to kind of add to the rust effect. Now for the gunner's hair I use some Revell Brown just to kind of give it a bit of orange tinge. Although unfortunately you can't really see him in the back of the ice cream van, so it's kind of a bit pointless. For the holes, just to kind of show that this obviously isn't metal, I'm using a Revell beige. At this point I was kind of getting tired of recording painting as well as feeling a pinch for time, so I just kind of went round, did a few little details like the headlights and the ice cream cones and the signs, and then hit with a black wash. Unfortunately around the same time I broke off one of the wheels, and this became a nightmare where I just spent a lot of time trying to remount the wheels, but I could never get the wheels quite centered, so the wheels kind of are off canter, and the whole thing bounces up and down as you'll probably see in the animation. Unfortunately this left me with no time to do the signage like I would have liked. Hopefully when I get to animating this in some future animations, I'll go back and redo the signage. So other than the wheels, I thought this turned out perfectly. I was quite happy with the idea of the guy in the back just spraying people down instead of giving them ice creams. I just thought it was a funny idea in the back of my head and I thought it'd be great. Like usual, stick around for the glamour shots as well as the new animations that I'm kind of as well as the cool little animated shot with this thing in action. Hope you all enjoyed the video and I'll see you in the next one.